The Dallas Cowboys will beat the Kansas City Chiefs if they do this one thing. We'll tell you what it is next.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us the number one sports podcast network. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. He is Landon McCool. And on today's show, we're going to talk about the Chiefs-Cowboy game on Thanksgiving. We'll talk about the offense and what they need to do to win. We'll give some score predictions at the end of the show. But I want to start with the Chiefs offense because this has been a very Jekyll and Hyde unit all year long. How do you expect the Cowboys to try to slow down Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes on Thursday?
Well, I think they got to attack the interior of this offensive line. It's going to be missing Trey Smith. I think that that's going to be a big loss for them. They're going to want to try to grind this game down, to slow down this game, and that's going to mean trying to run the football, trying to get the ball out of Mahomes' hands quickly on screens, on short passes. And I think the way that you can try to affect that is you got to tackle cleanly on some of the screen stuff, on some of the slant stuff. And then you got to try to find a way to slow down this run game. They're going to get Pacheco back this week. That means more physical running. And the best way to slow down a running attack like that is just to never let it get started. We've already seen the Cowboys, employ these 5-man fronts famously, as been mentioned by Eagles linemen that missed it in film prep. But I think that it's going to really be put to the test this week, because playing like that usually means that the opposing offense will counter with 12 or 13 personnel, more heavy personnel. And those are some of the more dangerous personnel groups that the Chiefs actually throw out of. So the Hurts wasn't quite able to take advantage of that aspect of the way that the Cowboys were playing the Eagles. I wonder if the Chiefs might be better equipped to kind of expose that. So it's going to be an interesting cat and mouse game there.
I think for me, the one thing that I would love to see them do is to get in these like third and long situations and then just blitz Mahomes. Now, in previous years, Landon, Patrick Mahomes has been like the best quarterback in the league against blitzes. He's got a career passer rating of 111 against the blitz from 2017 to 2014. This year's passer rating is 89. It's not very good. And one of the things that he's done extremely well is in these games where teams are like just rushing 4 guys, he does a great job of moving around in the pocket, using his legs as a runner, or just extending the play till somebody gets open. He might be the best quarterback I've ever seen at doing that, of just buying time and then making plays down the field. But if you can blitz him and force him to get rid of the ball quickly and then just rally and tackle, I do think that's the way to beat the Chiefs, because Travis Kelce is not going to beat you after the catch anymore. Xavier Worthy is dealing with multiple injuries, including a torn labrum and an ankle injury, and that's not really been his game anyways. Juju Smith-Schuster is not going to scare anybody, and neither is Hollywood Brown. They've got one guy that can make plays after the catch, and that's Rashee Rice. I would love to see Matty Eberflus send some of the blitzes like we saw last week against Jalen Hurts, whether it's like Reddy Stewart coming off the slot or DeMarvion Overshown just coming in the middle and then just, trying to get rid of the ball quickly. I think that's how they can slow down this Chiefs offense.
Well, the Cowboys are in better position than they were in previous weeks before the Quinnen Williams trade, before the Overshown return, to do that, right? Like, I think if you could send a blitz right up the middle, you've got Quinnen Williams who's dominating whatever guy he's going against. You send a guy like Overshown right behind him. Again, Mahomes is a good athlete. He's good at buying time. He's good at getting out of the pocket and creating, but he's not faster than Overshown. So I think,
and maybe you see these delayed blitzes where he's like starting as a spy and then he is coming in to blitz, to kind of take away that second part of the play, which is that extension of the play.
And I want to point out another thing that you brought up that I think is really, really important is the importance of the Rashee Rice aspect in this offense, right? He is their yards after catch guy. And I think that's why you saw when during the time that he was suspended and the time that he wasn't with the team, that the offense really struggled, right? Because
Really struggled.
they didn't have that guy on this offense to kind of help propel them in those moments that they needed. They had a guy who can catch the ball on 3rd and 3 if you need him to turn around and be in a spot. They had a guy who could run the ball on 1st down, and they had a guy who could create out of nothing. But they needed a guy when teams would blitz Mahomes, who you could get in a quick route and fire situation, get the ball in his hands, and then make defenses pay as he cut them through running through the secondary. And that's what they have with Rice. So the Cowboys have to have a plan for what, if they are going to send blitz, how are they replacing? How are they making sure that the ball isn't being swung out specifically to Rice?
And we should mention Trey Smith, their all-pro right guard. He is out of this game with a high ankle injury. The Cowboys will also be without Tyler Guyton, their left tackle. But their guards are Kingsley Suamataia, who's actually playing pretty well this year. You might remember him from the draft talk a couple of years ago. With a tackle from BYU who's kicked into guard. And then the expectation is that Mike Caliendo, who's kind of like a journeyman guard, is going to be in that spot. Now, just talking to some Chiefs people, he's kind of like their version of TJ Bass, where they feel good about him being in the game. But Trey Smith is the guy that adds value to your run game, and you feel really good about him blocking guys like Quinnen Williams one-on-one. Without him, this is a game where the Cowboys defensive tackles need to dominate.
Yeah, and again, look, Creed Humphrey is one of the best centers in all of football.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think if you can get these guys in one-on-one situations with your interior trio, which is what the Cowboys were able to accomplish with those 5-man fronts, there's battles to be won and opportunities to be had. And again, it's different than that kind of situation on the edge, right? When you win inside, you get pressure immediately. You affect the play immediately, and a lot of times you're affecting the play on the back end of the snap as when you're coming from the edge. When you can get quick penetration, you can blow up a play just by your presence there, even if you don't get your hand on the ball carrier and blow up the rhythm of the play. So that kind of consistent pressure. I mean, I think we saw that Quinnen Williams was still over 20% win rate as a pass rusher. Absolutely ridiculous for a defensive tackle. And I think if he can kind of find a way to get past the offensive line at that same kind of rate, they're going to be causing a lot of problems, even for the kind of quick hitting, screen hitting, slant passes, stuff that they want to do early on when they're just trying to establish a rhythm in the game.
One more thing. So they are getting Isaiah Pacheco back, and he's fine. He's a fine NFL running back. But the key for me is Kareem Hunt in this game. He actually got 30 carries last week against the Colts, which is crazy. He's not somebody, Landon, that's going to bust off a bunch of big runs. But where he's really good is in short yardage. His success rate this year is 58%, which is like unheard of, right? So you want to make sure that you keep the Chiefs out of these like 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2 situations where they can't hand the ball off. In a lot of ways, it's you're almost using the same exact game plan that you used last week against Philadelphia, where you've got to try to get this team into 3rd and long at all costs.
Yeah, and then just hope that previous iteration of Patrick Mahomes doesn't suddenly show up and turn into Godzilla mode against you.
Well,
that's not how he's played this year.
No,
absolutely. I am agreeing with you. I think this is absolutely the way to attack him, but you have to be aware. It has to be in the back of your mind that what happens, oh my God, we're at Thanksgiving and he turns right back into Patrick Mahomes because it's late season and it's Patrick Mahomes again. That's always going to be in the back of my mind, but I agree. This is the way you have to win against this iteration of the Chiefs. You got to get him into 3rd and long and then mess with Mahomes. Send blitzes up the middle, rush his clock a little bit, make him get rid of the ball quickly, because even if he gets rid of the ball to his receivers, unless it's Rashee Rice, there's not a huge threat for breaking tackles. You can get him down short of the sticks.
And capitalize on the mistakes. And I think that's been the difference with this Chiefs teams this year's. They're just making a lot more mistakes than in previous years. And I think like the perfect example of this is week 2 when they played Philly. I mean, that game was tied going into, later part of the fourth quarter. Travis Kelce drops the ball that gets tipped up in the air. Philadelphia returns it for a touchdown. And that's the difference. Rather than the Chiefs going up 21-14, the Eagles go up 21-14, and that's how the game is decided. You're going to get those opportunities this week. It's probably only going to happen once or twice. You've got to capitalize on it. And, that's how games like this are swung.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's talk about the Cowboys offense against this Chiefs defense. This might be their most difficult task of the season. We'll tell you why next.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends over there at Peloton. Look, folks, it's time to break through the busiest time of the year with a brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus that's powered by Peloton IQ. It's Peloton's most elevated technology and equipment yet that gives you real-time guidance, and it gives you endless ways to move, whether you want to work out by yourself or if you want to work out with your favorite instructor, like my personal favorite, Alex Toussaint. He always gets me fired up to tackle the day. And the thing I like about Peloton, it helps me achieve more in less times. They have features that help you plan, stay motivated, track your progress, and Peloton IQ also provides personalized workout plans and recommendations. That's something that I use right now during the busiest time of the year covering the NFL. They plan my workouts for me based on my mood, my vibe, and also my favorite instructors. So make sure you check it out and use it because it also helps you correct your form in real time, and it maximizes your reps. It counts your reps so that you can do it smarter, safer, and more efficient. Let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We'd also like to thank you for making us the #1 sports podcast network. Landon, let's talk about the Cowboys offense in this game, because I really think the offense is going to have to play one of their best games of the year. Kansas City is giving up just 18 points per game on defense this year. That's fourth best in the NFL. They're one of the best in terms of time of possession. They're really good at stopping the run. How does this Dallas offense, without Tyler Guyton, how do they try to get to 24, 27 points per game, or points in this one?
Isn't it funny? Like, I mean, if you go back and look at the Patriots, right, and how that Patriots dynasty kind of unfolded, it started out as like this defensive juggernaut, right, that had this young quarterback who was just doing what he could to win those games, won the Super Bowl very young, and then as time went on, he turned into Tom Brady, and it was about offense and about a bunch of other things. Always still up in the background, there was a good defense, though, right? It feels like the Chiefs kind of are going the opposite direction, right? Where it's Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and this high-flying offense. And then as the years have kind of gone on, it feels like the defense has become not the centerpiece, but the more reliable of the two sides of the ball for this team. Spags has been in his bag this year, right? Like, just absolutely unbelievable stuff. They've got the talent on every level to kind of shut you down, to make your life hell. They're going to come after you. You're going to be physical. They're going to be aggressive. They're going to be in your face. There's going to be blitzing. There'll be well-timed blitzes, and Spags blitzes are so well organized that they'll fill in the areas. So they think that they'll know your hots, and then they'll drop a linebacker into your hot to disrupt your opportunity, which will either make your quarterback hold on to the ball because he's double pumping it, or throw an interception. So Spags is one of the best organized defensive coordinators in football. They've got a group that is just playing still at a very high level, a veteran group. And I think it's just going to be extremely difficult sledding. And again, we compared this to the Eagles. I don't think it's unlike the Eagles, except maybe the Eagles have a little bit better overall linebacker play. But I think that the way that the Kansas City Chiefs use these linebackers in an attacking force, if they can play their brand of football, if they can stay in their brand of football on the defensive side of things, they're every bit as difficult as the Eagles.
Yeah, and if you look at their games that they've won and lost this year, they gave up 28 to Buffalo, they lost. They gave up 31 to Jacksonville and lost. A lot of these games end up being, they gave up, I think it was 28 to the Chargers. If you can kind of get to that 24-28 range, more often than not, you're going to win, because the Chiefs, just outside of a couple games against like some bad teams like the Raiders and the Commanders, they have a really hard time getting to that number, just because they're not as explosive on offense anymore. And I think for the Cowboys, one of the things that the Chiefs do extremely well is that they play this bend but don't break style of defense, and generally they tighten up in the red zone. Unfortunately for Dallas, they've just not been a very good red zone team this year. They're one of the league's best offenses. They're actually better scoring 35 yards out than they are at the 2-yard line. It's when you get to that, like, it's first and goal from the 9. That's where I get really concerned about this Cowboys offense, because you cannot kick field goals and think you're going to win this game.
Well, you also can't. I don't know that you're going to be able to solve that problem this week against the Chiefs on 4 days, right?
No.
So to me, the solution to that problem, and we've talked about it a little bit, I think you need to take your shots from the high red zone, right?
Yes.
Like, is when you get close enough, you should make sure that you're dedicating at least one of your downs to taking a shot in the end zone. You've got the guys to do it, right? Clearly, you should be taking your shots before you get into the red zone, because you're right. As things condense, this is going to be a bigger advantage for a guy like Spags. It's going to make things tougher. They've got a very strong physical defensive line that is not going to just give ground consistently. So you need to take advantage of it. If anything, you're trying to get this Kansas City defense spread out more. You want the opportunity to kind of make these guys operate in space. You do not want to get into a crowded spot with Karlaftis on the edge and obviously Smith on the interior. Like, you just don't want, Jones on the interior. Mm-hmm. You just don't want to get into a condensed area with Bolton and Tranquil. The way you take advantage of these guys is getting them into pass coverage, is to get them spread out, make them run sideline to sideline. Don't get down to the 2 and think that you can run, play action pass and get into the end zone automatically. I would not take my chances and eliminate that aspect from the game if you can.
The other thing I would like to see from the Cowboys in this one is the Chiefs played a very, very physical game against the Colts last week that went into overtime. They're traveling to Dallas on a short week. It's an older team anyways. We haven't seen a lot of like trick plays or gimmick plays from Brian Schottenheimer, and I'm not saying to build an entire offense out of that. But if there's any week to use 1 or 2 of those just to try to create a spark or a big play, I think this is the week to maybe unveil them. They have an older defense anyways that played a ton of snaps. Maybe if you can get something, that gives you a big chunk, a 40-yard play or a touchdown that maybe you weren't expecting to get. I think those are the types of plays that not only help you score, but help keep the crowd in this game and get you energized. I think having the crowd be in on this game is going to be a big deal.
I hate to say it because of what just happened last week, but this would be a really great game to get 2 or 3 nice snaps from Kevontae Turpin on offense, right? Like, to get him on a jet sweep to pick up 10 yards to kind of give you some space early on. Because, again, like you're saying, this is an older defense. They want to come downhill at you. If you could find a way to get to the edge and get your space players an opportunity to get the ball, you're going to be able to make some hay through the secondary. So I think that is a smart way to do it. But again, it's tough with the trust, obviously, because of what you saw with what Turpin did with the handoff there. But maybe we get back into the more traditional stuff that we know he does well, the jet sweep stuff, the swing passes, the potential screens. I think that's the kind of stuff where if you can get him the ball in space, it's just another thing for this Kansas City offense to have to think about and just see if he can give you a couple big plays.
Last thing on the offense, this has to be a big Jake Ferguson game. He started out really slow against Philadelphia, made some plays in the second half. These linebackers for the Chiefs are really good, but they're not great in coverage, and teams have kind of exposed the Chiefs in the middle of the field. And I've got to assume with all the attention that George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb are going to get, and they've got some really good corners, you need Jake Ferguson to win his matchups. And too often this year, he's not. Maybe we see more seam balls, or maybe we see more stuff like corner routes where he's making plays down the field rather than, next to the line of scrimmage where you're asking him to make plays after the catch. I just think Ferguson's going to have one of these big games soon for this offense to really get to that next level.
Yeah, it feels like the weakness of this defense is on the second and third levels in the middle, right? The safeties and the linebackers, specifically in the passing attack. This means that you need a bounce back game for both guys, right? From Ferguson and from CeeDee Lamb, who's the other major operator in the middle. Need to find ways to use them to attack the middle of this defense.
All right, let's give some predictions for this Week 13 matchup between the Chiefs and the Cowboys. We'll get to that next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's not a better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or you just want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who's going to score the next basket to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when you're rooting for your team to make that late game push. The basketball has been unbelievable this year. I know we're only 15, 16 games into the season, but we've had some unbelievable comebacks, some great games that have ended on buzzer beaters. And right now, FanDuel is offering an incredible offer for new customers. You can get $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head over to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL podcast. 2 shows every single day. One in the morning with Tyler Rowland, one in the afternoon with Tony Wiggins, available wherever you get your podcast. And one more scheduling note, we do have a crossover show with Brian Tracy of Locked On Chiefs coming out on Thanksgiving. It'll be in your podcast feeds early on Thursday morning. It'll be available on YouTube, so make sure you guys check that out. All right, Landon, score predictions. The Cowboys are 3-point underdogs over on FanDuel right now. Who do you got winning this one?
I mean, honestly, I haven't decided even up until this moment. I kind of think I'm going with KC. Okay. And I think it's because they've got a lot on the line here. They still have a lot of serious playoff aspirations. I think the Cowboys do too, but I think, we all see this as a long run. I think that it's, if I'm just concerned that Patrick Mahomes is going to recognize what day it is. He's going to say, oh, it's Thanksgiving. It's time to start playing again. And, just because like you talked about, like it almost feels like Andy Reid and this team has adopted a load management kind of stance in the regular season and maybe let it get away from them a little bit, right? They lost
very much so. They were down 20-9 last week, and their season was slipping away.
Yeah, and so I think that was enough of a wake up call that I'm concerned about Patrick Mahomes kind of waking up and being a monster. However, I will say this: if he doesn't, and this is the 2025 Kansas City Chiefs that we've seen so far this year, and they're playing the Cowboys, I think the Cowboys have a really nice chance to win this game. Because I think that they have a chance to kind of disrupt the things that the Chiefs are doing on offense early. And if they can come out firing on all cylinders, playing at home, like you said, just maybe probably a little bit fresher just because of the lack of travel and that sort of thing. And maybe just being more used to doing this. I think that there's a chance that the Cowboys could get off to a hot start and dominate this game.
I'm taking the Chiefs as well because I just think they're the more well-rounded unit. I just trust Mahomes to convert on a lot of these third downs. I trust him in the red zone. I trust the defense, the KC's defense, to get these big critical stops when they need them. And they just know how to win these type of games, especially if they're playing bad, where I think the Cowboys are still trying to learn how to do it. This is the second youngest team in the league with a first-year head coach. And we talked about it during Tuesday's show. Like, Brian Schottenheimer is still pretty green as a head coach and as a play caller. Or by this time, I mean, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and Steve Spagnuolo have seen everything there is ever to see, right? So they're not going to be shocked by anything. However, the Cowboys are riding a big win, like a big confidence-boosting win. And sometimes your teams just don't know any better. They go into these games thinking they can win, knowing that not knowing that they're at a talent disadvantage, and yet they go out and win, right? I think, Landon, I think you're going to know within like 10 minutes of this game.
I agree.
If the Cowboys are going to win or not. Because if the Cowboys go down the first drive of the game, score a touchdown, or they get a quick stop, a 3-and-out to open up the game, that confidence is only going to build. My concern is that this snowballs on them a little bit, and that's where the Chiefs can be really dangerous.
Well, where Kansas City's really good on offense is that maybe they're not as explosive as they have been at certain points, but they're efficient, right? They convert a lot, and that's how they control the ball and control the clock so much. And that's how you get a situation where, your offense is only getting, like you said, 4 or 5 possessions and a half, right? And so I think if that happens, the Cowboys are going to, probably be in some trouble. So the Cowboys, even if the 2025 Chiefs are the team that shows up on Thanksgiving, if the Cowboys can't find a way to disrupt that rhythm and the ability of the Chiefs to kind of just continue, you mentioned it, the Kareem Hunt on short yardage, the ability for Mahomes to just get 8 yards on first and second down combined, right? And then just consistently getting first downs up and down the field. And even if they don't score, they're milking the clock so often that they're limiting your opportunities to score. And when you don't score, eventually they are the Chiefs and they will score. So I think the Cowboys have got to find a way to repossess the ball and make sure that the Chiefs aren't as efficient on first and second down, make them get into third and long, and up the variance here a little bit where the Chiefs have had problems there. The counter to that, of course, like we mentioned, is what happens if Patrick Mahomes remembers that he's Patrick Mahomes.
Look at the Chiefs' 3 drives to start the game last week. 17 plays, 64 yards field goal, 13 plays, 48 yards field goal, 10 plays, 81 yards field goal.
Exactly.
And those are the 3 drives. Like it was 5 total possessions in the first half. It just, those long drives just suck the energy out of the game and out of the crowd. And that's what the Cowboys can't allow to happen if they want to try to steal this game against the team that's been in the Super Bowl, 5 of the last 6 years? Should be a fun one. Make sure that you are downloading the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. Follow Landon on Twitter at McCoolBCB. I'm at Marcus_Mosher. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. Enjoy the football. We'll see you right back here on Thursday night after the game.